Okay, good day and welcome to Tough Talk. My name is Steve Badi, and our discussion today is focused on the experiences of African international students in Australia. So, African students who come to Australia for study, knowing that Australia is a different system, whether education-wise as well as socially. So, how do students who come to study in Australia integrate? Joining me to discuss this topic are two international students and a local student. So, let me give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, starting with Rukia.
Hi, my name is Rukia, doing a PhD at the University of Adelaide, and I'm originally from Kenya.
My name is Bien-Aimé. I'm doing my master's in public health at the University of Adelaide, and I've also been a student outreach ambassador over there.
Hi everyone, my name is Valerie and I am from Mauritius. I actually graduated from my Master of Interior Architecture and I am actually on a temporary visa.
Thanks and welcome to this all important discussion. So let me start with you guys, Valerie, Rukia and Valerie. So coming to Australia, what did you hear about Australia? What did you learn about Australia that influenced your decision to choose Australia as a destination of study over, say, Canada, the US, and other countries?
I think for me more so, because I was coming in to do a PhD, it was more in terms of I was looking at where my research would fit in. So it wasn't necessarily Australia was the ultimate place to go. It was more so, would I be able to do my research topic the way that I wanted to do it? Would I find a supervisor who would understand my research goals and who I could interact in a positive way? So that kind of determined where I wanted to go. And Australia was less tedious to apply for a PhD than like the US and Canada. Because for them you had to do the GREs, you had there was a whole procedure that was just ridiculous. So Australia was pretty much, it just fit.
My parents wanted me to choose a country where university certificate is recognized. So I already had the UK certificate. So my parents were like, you know what, you came for holidays. A few years ago in Australia, go to Australia, there's lots of Mauritians, everyone go there, apparently it's good there. So, I mean, I was like, no, I don't want. Because I've been here for holidays, so for me it was more like Australia looked like Europe, so I don't really like Europe, so I was like,
okay.
So I didn't wanted to come. Then I was like, you know what, my parents are paying everything, I have no option, so I had to come, and actually I don't regret it at all. I had the best education at UniSA, even Adelaide. I just think that my life would have been different if I would have been like in Melbourne. I don't think I would have reached that far in my personal life if I would have went to another university or even another state. So maybe thanks to my parents for forcing me to come here. Yeah.
That's good. I think UniSA will love to hear that.
They are waiting over there.
Yeah. And okay, so let me go back to Rukia, right? So you did an article, Find Your Voice, where you touched on your coming to Australia being one of the most difficult or toughest decision.
Yeah.
So my question is what was the perception of Australia before coming, and how did your experience? What were difficult or tough about your study experience in Australia, and maybe how have you come along?
Yeah. Okay, first let me just mention that I did write that article a year ago. Okay. A lot has changed. a lot has changed. In the beginning, I was a lot more, it was new. So I was intimidated, I was scared. But the perception I actually did have of Australia was, I don't know, I didn't really think about it like that. I had been to Australia before because I have a sibling who lives in Melbourne. So for me, it wasn't really like this scary place I'm going to. It was more so it hadn't hit me until I got here how far away from home I was. So that was what made it a lot more difficult, is that I was very far from home because my previous university studies, I did it 4 hours away. Like I did it in South Africa. So I used to go home. Every time school closed, I'd go home. So literally I was like a boarder. It was pretty much a boarding school and I'd go home during the holidays. So this was like the first time I was coming by myself to a faraway place, and I knew I was not going home anytime soon. So that was really, really scary. And then also, in terms of doing a PhD, there's a lot of people expect you to know what you're doing, and I came in not knowing what I was doing.
It's a different system.
Yeah. So it was very intimidating, and that's what made it difficult. But now looking back, I'm actually glad I came. It doesn't feel as intimidating as it was. I mean, it's still a bit difficult, but it feels more, I feel more at ease here than I did in the beginning. In the beginning, I think it was just overwhelming because it was something new. I was starting over. I didn't know anyone, I didn't know what I was doing. So it was a lot of unknowns. And now it's a bit more, it's not so bad.
Yeah. And how did you find your way through that though? Did you get help from?
Honestly, I actually had to go and talk to a counselor because it was just emotionally the shift was just, it was too much. So I actually sought help. And yeah, I think talking to someone and just trying to involve myself more in school politics and things like that kind of made it a lot more easier. Because in a PhD, what happens is you're very few. And a lot of people come here with their families. So it's not like your undergraduate degree where you make friends. Yeah, so, and it's very isolating because everyone is on their own schedule. Everyone is doing things at their own pace. So you don't see people every day. You don't interact with people every day. You could literally be in the school but not interact with anyone for a whole week. So that was a lot difficult for me because I'd come from a place where I had lived there 7 years. I mean, I had friends, I had family, and then I came here and I was like, who do I talk to? Like, it was just, yeah. So I actually had to seek help. I actually went to student counseling services, and that helped a lot. They gave me a lot of things to think about, and also little things I could do here and there to help myself transition into this new phase in my academic life.
That's true because being a PhD student is a bit hectic in terms of so much academic responsibilities, writing, reading. And I think being away from home, being homesick, and being into a new environment where there are social challenges and just the whole academic side of things. So dealing with three challenges at the same time could be a bit too much. You are the president of the African University Student Association.
African Students Council
of South Australia. Working with students you have worked with, what are the experiences of them, and how do you guys help them to settle into Australia or deal with these challenges?
So people should first know that the State Council was incorporated this year. So we have been functioning, let's say, legally since January. So we do help international students and domestic students as well. But to answer to your questions, so basically earlier this year we had an international student informative session to assist students to settle properly in Australia by giving them some extra information, such as immigration information, in terms of also those seeking for some psychological aid, because as she said, when you come here in Australia, you don't know anyone, your family is not here, the education system is so different, and you have lots of pressure from your family because they're like, you better get good grades, graduate, because
it's expensive.
All our money is on you. So when students tend to stress a lot, and also from studies as well, and because I was previously international representative for UNISA, so this is something I know. Many international students will fail. So they fail either because of language barrier, or also I have to admit that some lecturers, they tend to be very harsh on international students, and international students, they don't know all the services which are being provided by the university. So they don't know that there are some tutors, there's some, student, I forgot how we call them, but it's like someone who helps you online as well. So there's lots of great services being offered, and students were scared to talk to the lecturers, which is sad because for me after a class I used to go and see them for like 1 hour.
It's easy for you.
Exactly, but international students, mostly when they're new, they tend to be like very shy. So that's why whenever, for example, when they have issues within their assignments, not only international students but also domestic. So they can say, listen, I'm having some issues with my assignment from I'm studying, let's say, law, and I can't do this assignment. So what we'll do is, of course, to keep that confidential, and then so and then we'll go and approach someone who is who we know is in their class, or even someone who is a senior. So we'll ask them, listen, that person is having trouble in that course, can you please help them? So, and then that person better, if they accept, of course, so we'll go, and then they will probably communicate among each other and trying to assist that person. So, and of course there's many more which we offer, but it's up to the students now to actually approach us, saying, I have some issues maybe in my personal life, I've been sexually harassed
Harass, yes.
Harass, yes.
Yes.
I was like, harass, yes. It was like, no. Like anything. So students are very free to come and talk to us. And what we'll do is actually to guide them towards the right people. So, yeah.
I think one of the biggest things we have to understand as international students is you come in with these societal ideologies where there's a hierarchy, especially in education, there's a hierarchy. You can't just go and talk to your lecturer because there's a respect,
true.
you know, so for them it's very intimidating and it's very scary for us. A fresh out of Africa student to come in and be like, excuse me, I have a problem. Yeah, you know, so I think having societies like that to ease people into shifting their thinking really helps students open up and, you know, embrace whatever it is that they're experiencing, because it's very intimidating to come here and then a lecturer is telling you, don't call me by my first name. That's the hardest thing I think for an African student. It's like, what?
That was the best thing ever. Hi, how are you? I know my lecturers, like I just call them by the name, like as if they're my friends, like high five and everything. I'm very relaxed in my lectures, I have to admit. So no, but also I think something which I've realized is that many international students, when they come to Australia for the first time, like they have an international week. During the orientation week, there's I think the first day is for international students, but many international students don't know the importance of going to that week. I'm a victim of not going there as well. So because during that day, it's like full information about all the services, about how to even find the resources online are being given. And also I have to say that it's also the lecturer's responsibility. This initiative I brought a lot when I was assisting students who failed, like trying to bring it back to their school, saying to the lecturers during every time for the very first day of each course to tell the students about where to get help, because there's more and more international students coming in, we have to admit. So to tell the students that, okay, this is the class, this is what's going to happen, but if you have any issue, you can still come and see me or email me, or you know, this is online, how you look at all your courses. But some lecturers don't do it, unfortunately.
Sometimes it's written in the course handbook. Just
handbook? I didn't know what was a handbook.
You have to read it.
No, like I was like, this is a handbook, okay, and everything. So I didn't know the importance. Like I can tell you that many students don't know, because even in our country it's called a different way. When I was studying in Malaysia, we didn't have that. It was done completely different. So we didn't know how important that is. Probably Australians will know more because they are used to that system.
They're independent.
But for people who came from completely different country, trust me, they don't even know. So even when I do presentation to international students, I have to change the whole, just to say one word, I have to explain it in another way for them to really understand, because you're like, I don't know this word, you know, and they, you know, when you come here, you think like you're on holidays as well. So why do you have to bother about what it means?
True. And I think before Bien comes in, my first experience with the struggles of international students, or not that international struggle, but you know, some of the challenges they faced was at Adelaide Unit. I met two African girls, and they were trying to find a way out, go to the bus stop, buy a bus ticket, these little things that they just couldn't do by themselves. They needed help with, and I spoke to them and helped them out, and it came to my attention that, you know, these people really need help, you know, finding house or things, just making their way around, socially around Adelaide was a bit challenging for them. But being with you, being an ambassador, student outreach ambassador at Adelaide Unit, what's your experience with some of the struggles or challenges with international students, African international students?
Yeah, I think they struggle just as any other new student to the university, and as you've mentioned, you know, people sometimes don't know where to go to get the help they need. And so as an outreach ambassador, my role was actually to provide referrals to international students and others as well. And the university also provided an international student support. There's a support service that's there just for international students to make sure like they have a very positive experience and a successful one when they start uni. So basically, students who have issues like personal issues or health, financial issues, they can go to this international student support services. They also help with student visa compliance monitoring, application. There's also other cultural and social programs that the university runs for international students, which is a chance for them to connect with other local students as well. So there's a whole variety of services, including counseling as well. So people can have a chat to a counselor if they feeling that they are being overwhelmed. So
then, do you think, just from your guys' experience, do you think the issue is with it's an access issue because the services are there? Is it more of an access issue or the lack of knowledge about these services? And I think for international students who have come to Australia, there are other things you have as priorities to settle in and other things you have to deal with. So maybe they don't go about checking for every service out there. So is there an issue around service or knowledge or access?
It's not about assets. It's more about knowledge, knowing where to go to get what help, because student services are out there. It's just knowing where to go and to get that help. Because some students may need a very tailored, very individualized service. So to know where to go to get that's sometimes tricky for new students.
I'll just add something on. The reason for which it's lack of knowledge, which I do agree, is many international students. Okay, just in my case, for example, I got accepted by UniSA 3 weeks before. So even for me to book a flight, it was like during the last day of orientation week. So I missed the whole orientation week, including the international orientation week. But apparently many international students, they miss the whole first week of uni. So they miss the orientation week, they miss the first introductionary week, I don't know how we call that. So I think it's also the responsibilities of the agencies to actually ensure that the students, they come to Australia and they come or attend the first week of orientation week where all information are being given. But it's also true that this orientation week, it's like they give you full of information. So many students, they just go to the stalls where they give away free food,
things.
Some of these.
We're starving.
Thank you. You get the flyers, the brochures, put in a nice bag, which you're gonna use for 3 years, and then that's it. The papers, you just open just to say that I've looked. No one really read them, and even for the orientation sessions, like in the big halls, there's everyone who come and give information. Like, your brain can just only focus for like 45 minutes. Like, what you're gonna be like, sitting there for like hours. You're like, I don't even understand what's that. I've never been to university. I don't understand why they're saying this is this. So, So I think the universities also should go a bit slower and maybe ask more students to actually come and do these presentations to explain all the services and the importance as well, so that these international students can really understand properly.
Let me just touch on what you just said. Two things. First week, I always miss my first week even back home. It was like, it's not too important, I'll catch up. The second week, but it's dangerous to do because they hit you guys from the very first day. There's always assignments, things to get you focused on. But you brought up the recruitment agency, people who bring students to Australia. So how do they help you guys with, in terms of settlement? Do they give you any support in settlement, or it's just more about the process of helping you find a university or sign up to a degree or what?
Well, for me, I have to admit that my agency, my agent, I think I was the first one she sent in Adelaide, because it's like, I think it's called PTD.
Oh, so she's there in that?
She's in Mauritius, yes.
Oh, okay, Mauritius.
So yes, and then usually she sends lots of Mauritians to study in Australia, mostly in Melbourne and Perth. That's where all Mauritians are. So, and then she was even surprised when I told her I'm gonna study in Adelaide, and it was the only educational agency, which was doing business in Adelaide. So And then like she helped me to enroll. Even it's me and my mom, we had to ask questions. And then 1 week before, then we're like, why is she still not asking where I will stay? So and then I was like, by the way, what about the accommodation? And it's like, oh my god, and we were all like, we were shocked because when I had to go to Malaysia, the agent was great. He did every single thing. I just had to give documents and that's it, and sign few things. And this time, like, I had to ask her like lots of questions how it's gonna happen, and she even forgot that I needed to stay somewhere. And then she was like, she had to contact places very fast. And 1 week before, all the places were booked with international students. I even had to travel like 45 minutes or 1 hour by bus. Just to ask if I could go and stay there. And then I was like, no, I can't do this, And when I came here, hopefully we found out that my father, the daughter, stays here. So she had to take me at the airport. I stayed at her house for like 1 year, but then that's it. To visit Adelaide, I had to do it by my own. My first day in Adelaide, I had to learn how to take the train. I didn't have data on my phone, trying to ask people where is UniSA, how to use the bus. I was so confused because the whole, even the transport system in Mauritius and Malaysia and Australia, like way
so different.
Too different. So I was very lost, and I was like, that agent did nothing besides just taking my documents. Plus exactly. And you know what? Even my application, it's me who did 1 year before when I was doing my final year, doing my bachelor. So it's me who was sending a lot of applications here and there. But because when UniSA before approving, they said you need an agent. So that's when we had to find an agent, and we found out that PP was the only one in connection with UniSA. So otherwise, I don't know what would have happened, but she was.
So Rukia, did it come to an agent?
I didn't actually use an agent, to be honest, because for me, I found that a lot of the agents didn't know what to do with a PhD student, a PhD application. So everyone I did visit, they were just like, you have to figure it out, and then we'll help you once you get in. We'll help you find a place to stay. And I was just like, I can do this on my own. There's no way I'm going to pay money and then I'm going to do everything by myself. So I ended up figuring it out on my own. I did my applications. I contacted supervisors and everything. I found my own accommodation. I didn't use an agent at all because a lot of them still to date don't know how to handle a PhD application, which I think is something, which I think is something that would be very useful because that's a whole area that, I mean, as PhD students, we don't really know as well.
Business-wise, maybe there are many PhD students coming to.
I feel like now they are, especially international students, and a lot of us are clueless as well. So them having someone who would help you write your proposal, someone who would help you navigate the websites and everything to figure out who's the best person to approach, that would be really useful. But I don't think a lot of them have the capacity to include like a research assistant type of applicant. I don't know how to put it, but yeah, if they did have someone who would help you do all those things, then I think the agents would be really useful to PhD, because at the moment I don't think you end up doing the application by yourself because no one really knows
I think that's something they could learn from.
Yeah.
And just to my other second to the last question. Now that you guys have lived in Australia for years, you have been here 2 years, right?
Yeah, almost.
Valerie has been here over
3 years.
3 years or 3 years. Yeah. Okay, so what's your impression of Australia as a student? Just both with your study as well as maybe social life, just an overall impression, because people are coming to students are coming to Australia from Africa. It's not stopping anytime soon.
So I think my experience is that I would say that Australia is a country of opportunities, because the number of opportunities I got, like I would have never thought about, because I thought I'd just come and study and that's it, So also something which I found out is because Adelaide, for example, is like so small. Many people have known each other for many years, from primary to high school students. So people tend to be a little bit more close towards making new friends. For example, in university, even when I first came to study, we were only 4 in my class. 2 Australians, 1 from Japan, and me. And the 2 Australians had families. So after class, we were, living class. And the other girl, she used to leave to go and find her boyfriend. I was just like, I don't know anyone.
That sounds like my life.
Yeah, when I started making friends, I I started making friends when I created the African Society for UniSA, but when I became friends, you know, with my community, and then I started growing up my network.
There's been like an international student who raised this point, like when they come here in Australia, it's quite different compared to like for African. Wherever you go, everyone is like brother or sister, so you don't feel afraid to just connect and get the conversation going. But whereas here, it's more like, you know, everyone is afraid of approaching a stranger, you know, and that's really tough, I guess.
And people are also busy. I find that, especially in my cohort of postgraduate students, is everyone's working, everyone's got family. So sometimes you don't get those opportunities to interact as you would if, let's say, you were an undergraduate or anything. So I think having more events where especially that would accommodate some of us older people, would be a lot more useful in terms of meeting like-minded people. Because I find that a lot of my friends are not even in academia. None of them are studying. So when it comes to when I have issues with school, I just feel like they don't understand, or, you know, like it's too out of their area for them to be able to help me the way someone who is in school with me every day would understand. So it's one of those, I think having an international community that's pretty much at the same level would be really useful. But other than that, I think Australia is actually a country that, for me, I find that I've been able to be myself a lot more in Australia. It's less restricting, socially, personally, mentally. It's less restricting because you get to figure out who you are. You get to, you know, everyone is so open and open-minded.
You become yourself in Australia. What helped you? How did you become yourself in Australia? What helped you?
I think spending more time alone, you start to realize, like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And for me, I found that, especially when I started the degrees, everyone would stress, do more of the things that you like, because that will ease the stress of your research. So for me, I started doing more of the things that I had ignored before. So stuff like music, I started to pay more attention to what I was writing and stuff like that. So that kind of brought me closer to myself. Rather than just focusing on school, because everyone stresses in the university that do other things. Your PhD is not the be all and end all of your life. Explore other things, join groups, you know, interact with other people, and that kind of makes you realize, okay, this I like, this I don't like, this makes me happy, this doesn't. So that kind of brings you closer to yourself.
But I think also, just to add on, it's the fact that we are here alone. So our parents are not here to tell us what to do. You know, so you take more time for yourself to really understand.
Explore,
Yes. Because, like, for example, when I was back home, it was all about education. After school, go to tuition. After tuition, come back home, watch TV for like 30 minutes, have dinner, go and study and everything, and that's it.